All right, I want to start by giving all glory, honor, and praise to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Rikaha Kodash. Double honor to the elders and the apostles and teachers and wise men of great millstone that I learned this truth from through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, through the Rikaha Kodash. All right, salutation to the elect out there. All right, I want to do a quick lesson. Going into this video I came across, it says MMA fighter unalived fiance while super high on Molly. And as you watch the video, you're going to find out that they had a dispute over some money, and that he ended up unaliving her, which he says he was super high on, Molly. But the point of the video is that he unalived her due to, his covetousness that he had for money. So before I play the video, let's start with this scripture right here. In 1 Timothy 6:10, it says, "For the love of money is the root of all evil, which some coveted after. They have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows." You see, which a lot of you Israelites out there, you covet after money. Jake, doing anything to get money, doing a lot of wickedness, just for the dollar. Yeah, but the point is that, men, a lot of them, they want money, and they do anything, mostly wicked things to get it. They covet after it. They covet after it, Salakia. So let's play the video, and then I'll get another scripture. All right, let's play the video. Salakia.
Now finds himself on the receiving end of a gut punch. 3 years after admitting to a drug-fueled rage that a former MMA fighter who once delivered knockout blows now finds himself on the receiving end of a gut punch. 3 years after admitting to a drug-fueled rage that ended in the murder of his fiancée, Philip Keller has been sentenced to 50 years in prison for killing Alicia Campitelli. Let's dive right in. For Law and Crime News, I'm Kennedy Walker. When you look at pictures of Alicia and Philip, you might see what seems like the perfect couple. Smiling faces, engagement photos, and a future that seemed bright and full of promise. But behind those smiles, behind those perfect moments, things weren't as they seemed. The MMA fighter was fighting a much darker battle, eventually leading to a heartbreaking tragedy. Let's start from the beginning. Alicia, or Red as her friends called her, was a beloved body piercer in Merritt Island, Florida. It looked like she had it all: friends, a twin sister by her side, and a fiancé who seemed like her perfect match. Philip, however, had a different story. He was an MMA fighter with a tough physique and exterior, the type you'd expect from someone who spent years in the ring. He and Alicia found each other, and from the outside looking in, their relationship appeared to be thriving. So much so that on May 4th, 2021, Alicia posted these engagement photos on her Facebook. Her friends and family flooded the post with congratulations as the couple looked ready to start their forever. But at the same time, Philip was battling a serious addiction, one that would soon tear their world apart. On May 14th, 2021, things came to a head. What should have been a simple disagreement spiraled into violence. The next day, police were called to the couple's apartment. When they arrived, they found Alicia dead from a gunshot wound. According to court documents obtained by WKMG-TV, Keller was the one who called 911, claiming he had found his fiance's lifeless body and that it appeared to be the result of a robbery gone wrong.
Keller reported Ms. Campitelli was not conscious and not breathing.
But as investigators dug deeper, Keller's story quickly crumbled. Suspicious activity on Alicia's debit card raised immediate red flags.
This stupid ad. Salakia.
Leading police to the suspect.
Our agents later located video.
Quickly crumbled. Suspicious activity on Alicia's debit card raised immediate red flags. leading police to the suspect.
Our agents later located video surveillance recordings of Keller conducting suspicious financial transactions at multiple businesses using the victim's personal accounts at various times between when the witness reported hearing the gunshots and Keller's 911 call reporting the death.
Authorities say Keller withdrew more than $1,400 from Alicia's account after she died, and that he allegedly admitted to sheriff's deputies that the pair had been arguing about Phillips' drug use just before the shooting. In the heat of the argument, the MMA...
As you can see, this situation happened because of what? Money. You see, obviously he was a drug head, and that he got some money from her. So this dispute happened over covetousness of money. Let's get another scripture. This is 2 Timothy. Let's see, 2 Timothy 3, verse 1. It says, difficult times will come. Let's start at verse 1. It says, know this also, that in the last days perilous times shall come. Verse 2, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy. Let's get this in the NLT. Let's get some different translations. All right, let's see. NIV, people will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusers, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy. All right, NSV, it says people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy. And as you can see, it says in just about all of these, lovers of money. Let's go get it in the NLT. All right, it says, for people will be only, for people will love only themselves and their money. They will be boastful, proud, scoffing at God or the Most High, disobedient to parents, ungrateful. They will consider nothing sacred. All right. And as you can see, you see this situation right here, as I stated, it happened because of what? Covetousness. Covetousness of what? Money. All right, let's continue the video.
MMA fighter allegedly went to their bedroom, grabbed Alicia's gun, loaded it, and then hid it in a closet. But the confrontation allegedly did not end there. According to the affidavit, he went back for the gun, and Alicia followed him. Moments later, things turned deadly. Keller described Alicia trying to protect herself, ducking behind the couch as she allegedly screamed, "Oh God, no," before he fired 2 more shots. Investigators say after the shooting, Keller threw the gun into a canal, but the truth wouldn't stay buried. 3 recorded phone calls revealed his guilt in raw, unfiltered detail. Keller's words would expose the chilling reality of what had happened. In the calls, Keller allegedly said, "I killed her, bro. I killed her, high as expletive. I don't know how I did it, but I can't live with myself knowing that. I'm a piece of expletive. I was super high on Molly." The 43-year-old was arrested and pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, grand theft, fraudulent use of a credit card, and tampering with evidence. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison before Alicia read to those who knew and loved her, "The pain of her loss will never fade." And here to discuss this case with me is criminal defense attorney Natalie Whittingham-Burrell. Natalie, you've been a public defender for a long time. What were your first thoughts when you read this case?
Well, my first thoughts were how sad and random this was. But it seems that she was just trying to talk to her significant other about his addiction issue, and then he just turns around and shoots her out of the blue like that. It's actually quite heartbreaking because of just the randomness of.
Yeah, he didn't shoot her out of the blue. He shot her because obviously he was a drug head, and that she had money that he coveted after to get to satisfy his addiction, obviously. And that Molly that he was super high on, it obviously was more important to him than anything, you see. So this situation happened, as I stated, because of what? Covetousness of that the money, because he needed that money to buy those drugs, you see.
Of it.
Right. And let's get into, his deal, right? The defendant took a plea deal and was sentenced to 50 years in prison. But, I don't know if you've been checking on social media. There's been a lot of public debate over whether a crime like this should warrant a life sentence instead. Now, for those that don't understand why, can you explain why a sentence of 50 years would be considered more appropriate?
So like it,
I just took a blue chew. Sir, that one is guaranteed.
Than life.
Right. So a lot of the times in cases like this, what's really happening is that the parties, the prosecutor and the defense, are coming to an agreement, and they have to, in order to get the defendant to accept responsibility, sometimes give something up. So that would be normally the life sentence. Most people wouldn't take a plea in exchange for life. They would just go to trial. And then what he's giving up is any possibility of advancing a defense that he didn't know what he was doing because he was intoxicated. And a lot of the times, everyday people understandably don't like the feeling that this is a clear-cut case of murder. This person should go away forever. However, you have to remember that trials are extremely emotionally taxing on the family. They're expensive, they're time-consuming. And if you can get a defendant to admit guilt, take responsibility, a 50-year sentence is nothing to sneeze at. Sometimes, practically speaking, that is a life sentence because most people in their 30s don't actually have 50 years left in their life. Now, there is a possibility, with parole and things like that. However, practically speaking, a 50-year sentence is something more akin to a very hefty sentence and nearer to a life sentence. So, yes, it does not feel good to know that he killed this woman in cold blood like that. However, it is a compromise so that that responsibility is being accepted. He's not going to be getting out of it. He'll have that on his record forever, and he'll do a significant period of incarceration.
Right. And you mentioned earlier that he was under the influence or, when he did this crime. Now, the case involves both a domestic dispute and a drug-fueled altercation. In your experience, how often do we see addiction as a contributing factor in domestic violence cases?
It's quite a common factor, and in some of the research, not all of it, but some of it, it can be a predictor for domestic violence. So substance use and abuse usually can amplify domestic violence or precipitate domestic violence because, as we all know, if anyone's ever been intoxicated, you don't need to have been on drugs, but just alcohol, for example, it lowers people's inhibitions. It messes with their ability to make executive decisions, to think twice or be future-oriented about their decisions and their actions. So someone that is prone towards violent behavior would be less likely to control themselves when they're under the influence. And it sounds like he was on Molly here. However, it does not mean that just because someone abuses substances that they're going to abuse someone, nor does it excuse the behavior, but it certainly in the research and statistically has been shown to make domestic violence situations worse. So if someone is involved in a relationship that involves domestic violence or emotional abuse, it is very important to stay away from substances because they lower people's inhibitions.
And let's, talk more about that. While we don't know for certain if Alicia had experienced abuse prior to that night, for some people who may be in an abusive relationship, what are some of the common warning signs that they could look out for?
And that person needs help, but number two, that's not necessarily a safe environment. Violence, but any prior physical domestic violence would be a red flag.
How do attorneys approach cases where there's no established pattern of violence? Because some people just may be afraid to come forward because, they can't prove it or, it may have happened.
All right, let's read the scripture again and then I'll end the lesson. But the point is that this guy obviously wanted some money that she had to, get his fix, fix of that Molly that he was on. So what? He showed what? Covetousness. Let's read 1 Timothy 6:10 again. It says, for the love of money. He needed what? Money to get those drugs, to get his fix on that Molly. You see? To get his high going on. To be super, super high on Molly. It says, for the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Now he killed her. And now, or he unalived her, Salakia.